Okay, so I recently asked you guys how you think the 14th Doctor is going to regenerate into Ncuti Gatwa's 15th Doctor at the end of the 2023 specials, and you guys left some of your theories about that among some other things. And also, we have a new Sonic. Okay, so last week I dropped my compilation video of everything we know about the 2023 specials. If you haven't watched that yet, I'll have it linked in a card. I ended up dropping it a little bit early in anticipation for some news or possibly a trailer coming out at the weekend following San Diego Comic-Con, but I ended up not really needing to do that because we didn't get any of that. So I could have really just dropped it at the normal time that I would have dropped it, and I also accidentally premiered it about 5 hours earlier than I was meant to. But I also had to quickly re-edit that video before it went live, as in the video I mentioned that we hadn't had a proper look at the Sonic Screwdriver yet, and whilst that video was uploaded and scheduled to go out, we finally got an official look at the brand new Sonic Screwdriver, and we were also able to order the brand new toy of that Sonic Screwdriver, which I have right now. I literally got it today, so I've not had much time with it, but overall I think it looks really good. For some reason before I got it I was unsure about the chrome finish and how good it would look, but now that I've got it in my hand I think it looks great. Sounds great, all the features in it are really good, there's more features than I would have expected, and I'm overall just really happy with it. Although it did take a lot of work getting it here, and it was basically like a few days late. It took basically a whole week to get here, so I got this a couple hours ago. Yeah, like I said, it's really good. I'm really happy with it. In terms of the prop itself, I do feel like the little arms that come out here are a little bit awkward because of how low down they are, but I do have a theory for that. I personally think, from what we can see in a leaked set video with the Sonic, it looks like there's a possibility that there might be a holographic hood on this Sonic, and if that is the case, I assume that's what these little prongs are for, because they also on the actual prop have some lights on the end of these prongs. So I think that they might be for a holographic hood, which I think would be interesting to see. It's a bit different from how all the other Sonics worked. We don't normally have that, but you know, it's a big change that I think would be interesting to see, but that's personally what I think this is for. But like I said, overall I'm really happy with this. It's pretty good. Okay, so now to get into some of your theories about the 2023 60th anniversary specials. Most of these theories are related to episode 3, The Giggle, and particularly the regeneration from the 14th Doctor to the 15th Doctor. But I'm very impressed with a lot of these theories, and a lot of them are quite long and very well thought out, so I thought I'd give them a read in a dedicated video. So let's just get into it. So this first theory is from the Outcast Boy. From filming, we saw Wilf in scenes from episode 2, so it seems like they'll return to Earth and find it in chaos, and then pick up Wilf, perhaps meeting the rest of Donna's family on the way. So I think when I went over my theory on what the plot of episode 3 was going to be, it was quite similar to this, that after whatever adventure they get up to in Wild Blue Yonder was done, the Doctor and Donna would return to Earth and find it in absolute chaos. But yeah, what I think the Outcast Boy is suggesting here is that would actually be the cliffhanger to episode 2, which makes a lot of sense, and that they would pick up Wilf, and that makes a lot of sense because we did see that Bernard Cribbins was filming for that scene where Neil Patrick Harris was involved, where there's a lot of chaos going around, that they were filming in Bristol, and you can even see that in the trailer, as obviously you can see the top of his hat in those scenes, so this would make a lot of sense. They go on to say, I suspect the regeneration will be less of a traditional regeneration, nor will the circumstances around it. We've seen Gatwa in the trailer, which indicates he's got more of an involvement than just a post-regeneration scene. Indeed, the idea he's not just in it for a moment is quite credible, since he seemingly interacts with Tennant, Tate, and Yasmin Finney based on various quotes the relevant actors and Gatwa himself have given in interviews. So yeah, this is true. I'm pretty sure recently Yasmin Finney has said that she shares some scenes with Ncuti Gatwa, which obviously indicates that he's not just going to have an incredibly minor role, such as a post-regeneration shot in these specials, and he might appear in more than just the last episode. Obviously, we don't know much about Wild Blue Yonder, so it is entirely possible he might make some appearances in that, or maybe even all 3 specials. But at the very least, even if he does just appear in the final special, he's going to have a much bigger role than you would initially think. Obviously, we know he has at least one line in these specials.
Someone tell me what the hell is going on here!
But I do agree that I think there is going to be a lot more to it than that. Given the whole face thing and questions being raised by both RTD and Donna herself in the trailer, why did this face come back? It seems like this regeneration might not have been a natural occurrence. Indeed, Donna's memories being able to come back without her dying, and likely the rest of the events of these specials were probably orchestrated. One of RTD's initial hints was, then then again, maybe, just maybe, this return is so impossible that it's actually an intricate illusion created by an old enemy of the Doctor's. If Neil Patrick Harris is indeed playing the Toymaker and is the final villain of these specials, an interesting connection forms, as during the development of the original Toymaker serial, they planned to replace Hartnell by having the Toymaker change him into another person with his powers. Obviously that didn't come to pass, but given the nature of the anniversary and the choice of the Toymaker, who only appeared in that story on TV, tying the events to that obscure bit of Doctor Who history would make sense, especially since these specials seem to be focused on more obscure elements such as the Star Beast comic. So yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Like they say, if the Toymaker is the final villain and a big part of these specials is the Doctor having their old face back, it would make a lot of sense that the Toymaker is somehow behind this and that this isn't just a normal regeneration and a natural occurrence, and that somehow the Toymaker has been messing with this. And yeah, I didn't really know that about the first Doctor's regeneration, that was the original plan. So if that is the case, this would be a nice little hint to that, as it's basically the same thing, but this time it might actually happen. Also, having Tennant be a subversion explains the whole costume change thing too. I know it happened with 1 to 2, but those costumes were far closer. It was made in black and white for a small, low quality screen, and it was thought it'd be only seen once at that time, unlike modern TV. RTD could easily end up explaining that quirk in the process of the reveal that the Toymaker put the Doctor in his current form. So yeah, obviously we do know now that the reason the 14th Doctor isn't in the 13th Doctor's clothes was kind of just because RTD didn't want David Tennant in them, but that doesn't mean it isn't possible that they won't try and explain it in canon in the show, and the Toymaker being responsible for this would be a good way of doing that. So I think that absolutely is a possibility. So then I suspect Gatwa's Doctor was who 13 was supposed to regenerate into, but is stuck in the Celestial Toymaker's realm, unable to exist in the real world unless the Doctor, who's essentially just back to their 10th incarnation, decides to give up his existence, and doing this somehow defeats the Toymaker in the process. With the whole I don't want to go stuff that incarnation had going on, I suspect that takes some coaxing, but ultimately the Doctor does the right thing and the Toymaker's defeat allows the regeneration to correct itself. Yeah, so I really like this idea that Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor is who 13 was supposed to regenerate into, and that he might be stuck in the Celestial Toymaker's realm, because that would also explain why we see a lot more of Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor in these specials than you would initially think, as we might occasionally cut back to him in the Toymaker's realm, and that could be where we see him in the trailer, because as we've been told, that background that he's in is not actually what it's going to look like in the show, and it's been edited in a way to look like that, as they don't want to give anything away. So maybe that is like the Toymaker's realm, or even possibly the Edge or something like that he's going to be trapped in throughout the specials, and we'll keep cutting back to him and seeing him in there. And yeah, in terms of the whole I don't want to go stuff, I'm going to get onto that in a later comment later on in this video. It makes me so happy to see the Meep on screen. When I first saw leaked set pictures, I thought it was a joke. I loved that story as a kid, but never thought we'd see it on screen. I wonder if this is a Family of Blood style retelling or a sequel to the comic. Either way, I'm excited. Hopefully Frobisher is next. Yeah, I think it's great to see Beep the Meep on screen. I personally don't know a whole lot about the character. I knew they existed before they were announced to be in this special, but I didn't know a whole lot about them. But it is really exciting to see a character like this on screen, as they are the kind of character you wouldn't expect to see brought to the TV show proper. In terms of how this adaptation is going to be, or if it's going to be like a sequel, I do personally think this does seem like it is meant to be more of an adaptation than a sequel. As I've spoken about in previous videos, it seems like it's going to be following the story very closely, but obviously there are a few tweaks being made with which Doctor it is and which companions are going to be taking part in the story and stuff like that. But besides that, it does seem like it is going to be a fairly faithful adaptation, so I do think this is more of an adaptation than a sequel. Unless, once again, the Toymaker has something to do with this and was just a big fan of the adventure that happened in the past or something like that. But yeah, Frobisher, I've seen a lot of people talking about Frobisher and how they want Frobisher to appear on screen. I know of Frobisher, but I haven't actually like read any of the comics that he's in or listened to any of the audios that he's in or anything like that, so I don't know too much about him. But I do know a lot of people have been speculating that he actually might appear in Wild Blue Yonder due to some comments that Russell T Davies has been putting on Instagram recently with penguin emojis, which I don't know, it could mean that he's coming, but if not, it would be great to see him in the future, and obviously Beep the Meep appearing in this special is going to make that a lot easier. I think either 14 will regenerate because A, once the Toymaker is defeated, 14 just regenerates automatically because 15 was the correct path all along and 14 only happened because of the Toymaker, or B, the Toymaker is what's letting Donna remember without dying. Once the Toymaker is defeated, however, Donna starts to die. 14 gives up regeneration energy to save her life. Donna's mind is a Time Lord, so this could work. However, this results in him regenerating in the process. Yeah, I have seen this going around a lot as well, that part of the reason the 14th Doctor might have to regenerate is because they give up their life because of her getting her memories back, and I do think that is absolutely a possibility, because as we know, Donna is at least somewhat going to get her memories back in these specials, possibly getting them back fully, which as we know is meant to result in her mind like exploding because she can't contain all of this knowledge. So it would make sense that if she is getting her memories back, that the possible reason as to why the 14th Doctor might have to regenerate, if it's not because of the Toymaker, is because he has to give up his life to save Donna. So I do think that is absolutely a possibility. Okay, and I think this is the last comment that we're going to talk about in this video, but it is quite a long one, so strap in. I believe the Toymaker took advantage of 13's body being highly unstable due to the Master's forced regeneration and used his cosmic powers to revert the Doctor back to his previous face, which damaged the process. I would love it if during the 60th last act, the Doctor has to go through a set of levels and complete each one if he wants to get to the Toymaker, who is the final boss. But along the way, he forces the Doctor to regenerate in a glitch-type fashion between 11, 12, or 10 for each one depending on what kind of level it is. They are collectively known as the 14th Doctor, not one single face, but multiple ones at the same time. So for the easy games, the Toymaker uses his powers to change the Doctor into 11, then 12 for the medium levels, and finally back to 10 for the hard levels, each one lasting for 10 minutes or so, which the Doctor manages to pass by using their intelligence and determination before reaching the boss game where the Toymaker is waiting for him. After an intense and heart-stopping showdown between the two foes, the Doctor finally emerges victorious when the Toymaker is banished from his realm and goes into perpetual hibernation, freeing the people of Earth from his mind-controlling giggle driving them all mad. With the Toymaker now gone, the Doctor can regenerate properly into his next incarnation, who has been trapped in a limbo realm unable to break through due to the damaged regeneration cycle, and the Doctor returns to Donna just in the nick of time before the Toymaker's realm falls apart. Donna says that she knows how the 10th Doctor originally regenerated into 11 because of the meta-crisis in her mind. She is able to see it, so when he goes to depart in his TARDIS, Donna stops him and encourages the Doctor to come back to the noble house. He has to regenerate again, but this time he doesn't have to do it alone. He can do it surrounded by his friends, and while he is reluctant to do so, the Doctor eventually agrees, but warns them all to stay back while it happens. After saying his last words, "I'm ready to go now," he finally changes properly into the next Doctor, 15, in front of the shocked members of the noble family, and this leaves us on a cliffhanger for the 2023 Christmas episode. As the regeneration cycle fixes itself and catches up again, we see the Doctor's eyes change in rapid succession through 10, 11, 12, 13, and then finally 15. This redeems 10's heartbreaking original ending when he was all alone to face his demise, and when we first meet 15 properly, some time has passed and he has been in the incarnation for a while off screen when he meets Ruby at Christmas. Okay, so that was a very long comment, but I think there's some really great stuff in here. So first of all, they mention about the game and the levels that the Toymaker set out, which makes sense for how the character is, especially from their first original serial back in classic Doctor Who, as their whole thing was creating these elaborate games that they would rig in their favour so that they don't lose. So it would definitely make sense if Neil Patrick Harris is playing the Toymaker that he would do something like this. They also mention how they think we are going to get glimpses or cameos of the 11th and 12th Doctors, which is something a lot of people have been speculating and hoping for, as they also think the costume is set up in a way so that it works for all three Doctors, which I do kind of see, and obviously with the new Sonic we've got to look at, it is meant to be an amalgamation of the previous New Who Doctors Sonics, so I guess that does kind of hint at that, but it might just be because it's like an anniversary special, so they wanted to celebrate those things. And I personally don't really think we're going to get any glimpses out of the Doctors, but I suppose there is some stuff that we really don't know about, and David Tennant has hinted at things filmed on studio that we haven't seen with people that we don't know are going to be in the specials. So it is absolutely possible, and this way of it being part of the Toymaker's games would be a really good way of implementing those cameos or those actors to come back, and it would be a multi-Doctor story in a way that we've not really seen before, in quite a unique way, so I think that would be really cool. Now the last thing I want to talk about with this comment is how they think the 14th Doctor will be surrounded by friends during their regeneration, and that they will say the phrase, "I'm ready to go now." Now personally, I really do think and hope that this is how it will go, because obviously the 10th Doctor was all alone when he regenerated, and his last words were, "I don't want to go."
I don't want to go.
So I just think it makes a lot of sense that if you're going to bring back David Tennant as another incarnation of the Doctor, you get a bit of a resolution to that, and you mirror that moment by having him say he's ready to go while surrounded by a lot of his friends. And I just think that'll be a really nice way for him to go, and a nice resolution to that Doctor, especially with a lot of people being quite annoyed at the 10th Doctor's final line, as it doesn't really set up the next Doctor very nicely for a fan reception. Now there were some people in the comments and in the replies of this saying that they personally think the Doctor should say Allons-y before regenerating, because obviously that is the 10th Doctor's iconic catchphrase, and I can see that because like I said, it's their iconic catchphrase, but for me personally, I just don't think that'll have the same impact. Like I said, I like that the "I'm ready to go now" will mirror the 10th Doctor's final words, but also I think the phrase Allons-y is going to be mentioned at least a couple times throughout these three specials. We've already heard it in the trailer, and that's seemingly when he's getting into a taxi and not during his regeneration.
Allons-y!
So I think Allons-y being his final words before before he regenerates would only really have an impact if he doesn't say it at all in the previous episodes of the 60th anniversary specials and only says it as his final line. So I don't think it'll be as impactful as "I'm ready to go now" or something along those lines. But yeah, that's all the comments and theories that I want us to talk about with this video. If you have any more theories, put them in the comments below and I'll possibly make a follow-up video to this. And if for some reason you haven't seen my Everything We Know About the 2023 Specials video, you can watch that here.